What's up guys, NepentheZ here and welcome to another episode of Play to Win. Today I'm going to be discussing the D-pad tactics, or at least 50% of them, something that people don't really use much and something that people aren't really aware of and how important they can be. There's a couple of tactics that you can use on the D-pad, the side that I'm going to be showing you. As you can see on the screen now, you've got the NEP default, which I'll take you through at the end of this little tutorial, but then you've got counter attack, high pressure, possession and long ball, and I'm going to basically show you what those mean guys, and what those mean, and show you examples of why they're effective, when they're effective and how they're effective. To access these tactics guys, you can only do them in a game, and you access them by pressing up on the D-pad and then the relative direction that you've assigned each particular tactic to initiates the tactic. So first of all guys, we're going to be going with counter attack. Now counter attack is best used against people that are better than you in the game, people that are constantly pressuring you, people that are always in your box and always in your half. When you tackle them or when you receive the ball, you initiate the counter attack, and your players will flood forwards, and hopefully you'll be able to outnumber them in defence because they've been all over you. I find it very, very effective for corners and set pieces. When my opponent has a corner or a free kick in a dangerous position, as soon as your keeper or defender gets the ball, hit the counter attack on. So you press up, and for me I think it's up and left. I press up and left, initiate the counter attack, launch the ball to one of the wings or whoever's in open space, and all of my players will flood forward. It is better used when you're in a defensive or ultra defensive position, because if you're balanced attack or ultra attacking, your players generally tend to flood forwards every attack rather than when you initiate a counter attack. But I do think it is an effective tactic for people who aren't so good at the game or are against somebody who is just far superior to them and constantly under pressure. I'm going to show you a clip here guys. I've got a couple of clips. One's going to be of a corner as you're seeing now, and when I receive the ball I don't press counter attack, so I don't initiate the counter attack, and I'm currently in a defensive situation. As you can see, my players just aren't really moving forwards, aren't really running anywhere. The keeper's got the ball and people are offering to show themselves to pick up the ball in a defensive position. What you're seeing now guys is when I'm in a defensive position, and when I receive the ball here I do initiate a counter attack, and as you can see the players do start moving forwards and they offer a hell of a lot more outlets to get counter attack forwards, and you could potentially score. This doesn't only work for set pieces, it does work for in-game play as well. Like if they're just in and around your box and you can pick up the ball and you initiate the counter attack. The only thing is it's real hard to remember to actually initiate the counter attack, so bear in mind guys, and make it kind of a natural reaction that if you're deep in defense and you get the ball, hit the counter attack on and away you go. The next segment we've got guys is the high pressure segment, but one thing I just want to actually clarify before we go any further: to access these D-pad tactics, you want to press down on the D-pad, not up. My apologies, it is definitely down to access these four specific ones, and then you pick your relevant section. Now with high pressure, this is very dependent on where you are on the field and where you are in terms of attacking or defending in your mindset. So for me, for example, I only ever use high pressure and ultra attacking when my opponent is passing the ball around their defense, which you're going to see in the clip here in a second. When my opponent's passing the ball around the defense, I'll go high pressure, I'll go ultra attacking, and you will see the team shift up the field and start pressing the person on the ball at all times. The AI will do it, and you can cover the runs yourself to try and win the ball back. Now if you do this whilst you're on balanced defensive or ultra defensive, they won't start pressing the team until the ball moves into the midfield and attacking areas when your opponent has it. So if you want to press the opposition when they have the ball in their own back line, like you get those, some people like when they're 1-0 up with like 10 minutes to go or something like that, to pass it around a defence, you have to make sure you go into ultra attacking for the high pressure to work in this instance. If you play as balanced or down towards ultra defensive and you put high pressure on, you will only achieve these results when the ball hits the midfield third and the final third. So we're going to be looking at the clip now. As you can see, my players are just chasing down the ball. He's passing it around his defence there. They are chasing it down and chasing it down. This is because I'm high pressured and ultra attacking, and eventually, as you can see, I win the ball there, and that's pretty much as far as pressure is goes. Like, the best times to use high pressure, as I say, it's only when the defence is passing the ball around the back. I don't really recommend using it whilst it's in the midfield and you're attacking, your defensive third, because it will just tire your players out. It does cost a lot of stamina because all of your players tend to chase the ball down hard, and it does cost their stamina. But in the last sort of 5-10 minutes of the game, it's not too important, and I definitely wouldn't recommend using this throughout the whole game because your players will be dead on their feet by the time the 90th minute comes along. Okay guys, so the next tactic we have is possession. Possession is a tactic that I don't really use ever, and I don't really see the need for it, but for the purposes of the video I have put a little bit of possession passing play together. Basically what possession does is cause your players to move back into open spaces rather than run on to look for through balls or look for more dangerous passes. So basically it offers a safe pass aspect through all your midfielders and attacks, and it doesn't really help in the sense that you don't get to move forwards with the ball. It's better used for when you are passing it around your defence or midfield, which is the polar opposite to what we just discussed, where you're trying to attack someone that's doing that. If you're doing that yourself, if you're winning 1 or 2-0 and you want to hold on to the ball for the last sort of 5 minutes of a game just to see it out, I advise you do use the possession tactic. However, I don't see that much of a difference in it myself. The way I play, when I pass, if I want the player to run forwards, I'll hold the L1 button when I pass and they'll move forwards, and if I don't, then after I pass I expect them to still be in a very similar position to when they've just passed the ball. So what you're about to see now is just a little bit of passing play, what possession offers. When I put possession on, it basically just stops your team moving anywhere. They keep as a full, solid, tight-knit unit. So if you play a 4-4-2 and you hit the possession tactic, your players will stay in that formation until you say otherwise, until you get rid of that possession tactic. And the way to cancel it, guys, is to actually just pick another tactic. You can't cancel it any other way. You just need to... Basically, you'll see your unit will stick. Like, your back four will be there, your midfield four will be there, and your strikers will be there. Whereas if you don't use possession, if you use something like high pressure or counter attack, your players are a lot more free flowing, and they tend to move into better positions to offer you different options of attacking. But in possession, they will stay within their positions and move slightly away from the opposition players just to offer you a different pass, just so you can obviously keep the possession. Okay guys, so the fourth and final preset tactic we have is the long ball. This is the one that I actually sacrificed for my personal default tactics, which I'll show you just after this. And the long ball is pretty irrelevant in my opinion. It actually causes more trouble than it's worth. What you're seeing here, guys, or what you're about to see, is I have the ball with Joe Hart and I pick the long ball tactic, and you'll see the midfield and attack so far up the field so that obviously when you clear the ball long, if you win that initial header, then you're likely to have someone around to take possession of the ball, and all of a sudden you've turned defence into an attack. This also works when you do have the ball in defence and midfield. If you hit the long ball button, you'll see your fullbacks and wingers, will like pummel up the field. The strikers will look to run off the shoulder of the last defender, and you can look to put that through ball over the top. The reason why I don't like the long ball is you have to have a target man as a striker to be there. You have to have a tall man with a lot of strength. So someone like Ibrahimovic would be good. Someone like Balotelli would be quite good. But they also need pace, just in case instead of playing it up to them, you actually play it over the top of the defence. So they want to be able to run off the run off the shoulder of the last defender and actually pick the ball up. Now the problem that I found with the long ball when I was testing this out the last couple of days is that when you press long ball and you clear the ball long, this happens with goal kicks quite a lot as well. If the opposition wins a header and they header it back towards your defence, you've now got a position where they are counter-attacking you instantly. They're going to have 4, 5 or 6 players running at your defence. You're going to only have your 4 defenders there, and the rest of your team is going to be caught way up the pitch. So I really don't recommend the long ball, but I've shown you a couple of clips there of how it works, and I don't really see any point in which this is an effective tactic. If anyone does have any ideas on how to make this effective, then feel free to leave them in the description. Okay guys, so the last segment we have is the custom default tactics, and you can assign this to any position that you like. Custom tactics here are basically all 3 of the other options you have put into a manner how you want them to act at all times throughout the game. As you see here, we've got the speed. So this is for build-up play. If you put the speed as low, your players aren't going to make forward runs. They're not going to really exert themselves too much, and in general they're just going to sit in their positions. If you put the speed to high, as you just saw there, players make forward runs, they try and get the ball, the AI tries to like move forwards into more advanced positions so that you could attack a lot more effectively. When you set these up as your own custom tactics, you really should have a game plan in mind, in the sense that if you put these on at the start of the game and you put high speed and high passing, you want to hit a couple of goals early and then change your tactics again and come out of that and go back to something a little bit more regular. Because if you try and play in one manner the whole game with your fast speed and like high passing, you will end up tiring your players out and it could backfire on you. With the passing, whether you have it low or high will determine whether your players come and look for short passes and offer you support, or if they try and make runs in behind the defence and try and go long. So the passing in the build-up play is essentially the same as putting on long passing or not using long ball in the previous sector. Like I said, this basically here, the custom tactics, is like a mix of all of the other ones, all of the other four put together to kind of perfect yourself a tactic. I like to have the speeders quite high, but I tend to use it more towards the back end of a game if I'm drawing. The positioning, guys, organised or freeform, is pretty self-explanatory. Whether or not your players are going to run out of position to find themselves in passing positions, or if they're going to stay to the structure of the formation that you've given them. I like to offer my players free form because it really does add an extra dynamic in the attack. The only problem with it is, guys, that if you do concede possession and you get hit by a counter attack, your players are not going to be in the correct positions, and this could cost you. And as many of you know, many of you watch my videos, I concede quite a fair few goals, and this is actually one of the large reasons due to that. So then you've got chance creation. This is more implemented when you're in the final third. You've got passing and crossing. Now passing again is exactly what is pretty much the same in build-up play, it's just a bit further on. If you go for short passing or for low rated passing, your players aren't going to look to get in the box, they're not going to look to get towards the goal, they're just going to look to keep the possession and play in a sense a Barcelona style of football, just keeping the ball, keeping the possession and waiting for their chance. If you put the passing higher up, you're going to play much more risky football where your players are going to be looking in to get in behind the defenders. However, it's again going to leave them out of position, and if you make the wrong pass, or if your pass isn't good enough, you're not going to be able to complete the chance, and you're going to have an opportunity that a counter attack is going to come back on you. I like to keep my passing quite safe. I like to keep possession of the ball and work for my chances. However, there are times where you do sit there screaming, wishing that your players would make that run and they don't, and that's one of the reasons why right there. The second part of chance creation is the crossing. This again depends on the team that you've got. If you've got a 4-4-2 with a couple of strikers that have got good at heading, you want to put your crossing as high as possible, because your strikers get into the box, they go to the near and far posts, and they look for the cross. They look to get in and get their head on the ball. If you have the crossing low, the strikers will actually sit a lot deeper, sit on the edge of the box and wait for the passes to come in towards them, or like a play down the right hand side or the left hand side and worked into the box before a cutback is given to you. So that's what crossing has got. For shooting, guys, bear with me 1 second, that's very loud downstairs. For shooting, it literally has no bearing because the AI never actually shoots for you. It's always you in control of the ball. The only difference I found that the shooting does is put the AI in better positions to take shots. So if you like to finesse from the top of the box or drill from the top of the box, have your shooting high, because then they're going to drop down for you and offer the pass so that they can have the shot. Although once you make the pass, of course, it's going to be you that has the shot. Again, with the positioning, guys, you're going to have organised or freeform. Once again, I like to have freeform because it lets the midfield and the fullbacks mainly kind of move around the edge of the box and offer a lot more position. A lot more choices, I guess. A lot more choices with the attack. With the defence, guys, you're looking at the blue dots now instead of the red dots. When you got the pressure at low, the blue dots, as you can see, they will drop a lot deeper and they won't press the attack. Now, this is exactly the same as the high pressure on the D-pad tactics. The more pressure you give to your defence, the higher up the field they will be. So it's good to have a good amount of pressure, because you're not going to give your opponent time on the ball. However, if you come up against someone who's a lot better than you at the game, or even just as good as you at the game, they're going to be able to pick holes through your defence, because your line is going to be so high up the field that they're going to put the ball over the top, maybe a striker run in behind, and they're going to have a free run on goal. And so the pressure is real important. I like to keep it, I think I usually have it quite high, around 75 or so. Maybe 70, just because I like to have my defence quite high up the field. But you don't want to have it too high, for the simple fact that, as I say, you can get a through ball through. I've left the pressure on 35 there. This is just not my actual tactics. So then we have aggression, guys. Aggression I'll also cover vaguely in part 2 of this. But aggression is when you're pressing someone. The aggression is how quickly you want to get that ball back. So basically, if you have a low aggression, you're going to get one person going to be pressing the person that's got the ball, but not doing much else to that person. If you put the aggression medium, they're going to be actually trying to make the tackle. They're going to be chasing them vigorously. If you put the aggression very, very high, guys, you're going to have 2 people attacking the one person on the ball, and try and, almost like basketball where they do like a double team, that you're going to have 2 people box in the player and try and steal the ball. Now the problem with that is, guys, is that you're again leaving spaces in your midfield and defence, because you're costing yourself 2 players to go and attack one ball, which is never good. So I don't like high aggression. I like to keep my aggression low. With team width, guys, it really depends on the formation you come up against. You can save quite a few different custom tactics as presets, guys. So you can have all kinds of different things. I like to have a wide defence when I play against a 5 midfield or 5 defence, because it stops the attack play down the wings as much as possible. It does leave a lot of room in the midfield, but with only one striker, that's not really an issue. If I play against like a narrow formation, I will have a narrow team width. It kind of makes sense. The defensive line is the other thing you've got. Now, offside trap again is something that you have in the D-pad tactics on the other side of the D-pad, which I'll explain in another video. But for me, the defensive line, I like to keep it as cover, because if you play the offside trap, every time the opposition plays a through ball, your defense will try and step up. And more often than not, you won't get the offside trap, guys. It's kind of bugged in the game a little bit, and the offside trap never ever seems to come good. It works, in my experience, maybe 1 out of 5 times, and that's not good enough. Like, the amount of chances that you end up costing yourself because of that is crazy. So make sure you put your defensive line to cover, so if a through ball does get played through, you're going to have one of the defenders covering around the back. As I said, you can save quite a few different preset tactics here, guys, and you can assign them all to the roles if you want to with the quick tactics here. You don't have to have the counter-attack, high pressure or possession. I would recommend having the high pressure, and I would recommend having the counter-attack, but I would also recommend having a very defensive and very attacking custom formation, just so you can have, depending on how your game's going, you can have obviously a defensive outlook or an attacking outlook. Now, as I said before, the custom tactics are to do with all of what you have available to you anyway. They don't really impact the game so much that in the way that custom formations do, so please don't assume that this is going to cause people to be sweaty and stuff. It doesn't have that much of an impact, and every action you take in your custom formations can have a negative reaction if your opponent can figure out what you're doing, which is what football is about, you know. So if you do play an aggressive high line, you're susceptible to through balls over the top, whereas if you play a passive deep line in defence, you're going to concede a lot of possession, and in turn you could have a lot of attacks on your goal. So you have to really make sure, guys, that you're careful with what you do with your custom tactics, and make sure you tailor them to the way that you play the game, because if you do it to how somebody else plays the game or how you think you want to play the game, you're going to cost yourself a lot of victories, guys. You're going to cost yourself a lot of goals, you're going to cost yourself a lot of coins, and you will not have fun, and it will be a lot better if you just stick to the default tactics. However, if you do find that you think you play a certain way where you keep the possession of the ball and you like to build up your attacks, then customize your tactics to suit your game, so that you can offer yourself a position where you can keep hold of the ball for 10-15 in-game minutes, not necessarily around the defence, but you work your play, you work your team, you work your way up the field, and then you score the goal. If you struggle to keep the ball, if you struggle to make passes, if you haven't got players who are good enough to make the passes, for example, if you've got a silver team and their passing attributes aren't very good, but they've got good pace and good height and good strength, it'll be beneficial for you to play a long ball tactic or a more direct tactic. So you put the passing towards the 100 bracket, so your players look for forward runs and stuff, then it's not so important to have that impressive passing stat because you're making more direct approaches at the goal. Of course, this will result in you having a lot less possession and potentially conceding more goals. But again, that just depends then how you work your defence. If you work your defence right so that you can have 1, 2 or 3 options of defence, then you're going to find yourself winning a hell of a lot more games. The custom tactics as well, guys, are something that people neglect a lot. They're not really used very often, and I don't really understand why, because they are very, very useful. I think one of the biggest issues for me specifically is that I don't like, it never really hits my mind to use them until it's either too late or irrelevant. Like if I might play a game and be 3-0 up and then think, oh, I could use the custom tactics here to play a bit more defensive. But it's pointless because I'm winning 3-0. You know, you don't need to play defensive when you're winning 3-0. Or I could be like 1 or 2-0 down with only 10 minutes to go and think, oh crap, I could have put an attacking formation on, attacking custom tactic on like 20 minutes ago and maybe made a difference in this game. But I end up getting so caught up in the game that I completely forget about the tactics. So drill the tactics, drill the custom tactics into yourself, guys. I was going to put the play to win gameplay after this video, but this video has gone on a lot longer than I thought it would have done. And this is just part 1 of the D-pad controls as well, guys. So I'm actually going to label this as a D-pad control tutorial, and we're going to have a play to win episode later on today. But if you could hit that like button, guys, because this has taken me a hell of a long time to kind of figure out exactly what happens, why, where's, what fors and all that kind of business. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Cheers.